The date is October 19th, 1936, and within 1 hour, 4 men will pay the supreme punishment for murder. The men, Clarence "Red" Casey, James Milligan, L.D. Padgett, and Lee Clark, will all meet their maker in the white, thick walls of the Rayford prison farm in Florida. With almost mechanical precision, the first quadruple electrocution in Florida was carried out. Clarence Casey and James Milligan would die for the 1932 hold-up murder of Frank D. Palmer, a Miami druggist. Padgett and Clark would die for the killing of their wives in 1934. Casey would be the first of the 4 to make the walk to the chair, walking into the execution chamber at 10:35 a.m. Casey threw a quick look around, and standing before the oak chair that in 1 minute would snuff out his life, he turned to the witnesses and said, "Wherever you are tonight, get on your knees and make peace with God." Seated and strapped in the chair, a black hood slid over his head. As this was being done, Casey said to the electrician, "God be with you, and God have mercy on my soul." Sheriff D.C. Coleman of Dade County then threw the switch. Casey's body lunged against the heavy black straps as the current surged through him 50 seconds. The current, starting at 2,000 volts, then reduced to 300 volts before being raised again. The prison doctor waited for the body to cool before pronouncing Clarence Casey dead at 10:43 a.m. James Milligan was next to enter the execution chamber, only 3 minutes after Casey's body was removed on a stretcher by 3 prison trustees. Facing straight ahead and without saying a word, the black hood, which also carried the electrode, was placed on his head. Milligan could be heard saying, "Goodbye, boys." This was aimed at the prison guards. The switch was thrown, and for 55 seconds, electricity surged through his body. 7 minutes later, and Milligan was pronounced dead. The time was 10:53 a.m. Death house guards had stated that no final farewell had been made between Casey and Milligan before Casey made the last 40 steps from the holding cell to the electric chair. The third man in the procession of death was L.D. Padgett. With a bewildered look, Padgett paused for a moment and then seated himself. In the chair, head bowed, as guards fixed the straps, Padgett began to mumble a prayer. However, this could not be made out by witnesses to the execution. Padgett, who was still praying when the switch was thrown at 11:05 a.m. As the machinery of death hummed, Sheriff Allen's face was taut as he raised and lowered the lever which controlled the electric current. Padgett was pronounced dead 7 minutes after the switch was thrown. Described as a model prisoner by Sheriff Allen, who said he had deep sympathy for the condemned man. It was now time for the 4th and final prisoner to make his way to the chair. Smiling slightly, Lee Clark entered the execution chamber and seated himself in the chair. "Kinda draw it down tight," he said to prison officials as they adjusted the straps. Clark, a black man, small in stature, sat quietly after his one remark, until the current was turned on at 11:18 a.m. Lee Clark was pronounced dead at 11:27 a.m. After Clark's body was removed from the chair, a priest pronounced prayer over it. All 4 men were buried in the prison cemetery, with no family members coming forward to claim the bodies.